I'll admit, the third-person action genre in VR isn't usually my forte, but when developer Played with Fire put out the opportunity to review their new game Mixture on PlayStation VR2, I jumped at the chance to see if they could prove me wrong. Jumping into this game for the first time, I was quite pleasantly surprised to find that even though this game was drawing a lot of comparisons to Moss, this is its own game in its own right. Whereas Moss was heavily focused on puzzle solving, Mixture is heavily focused on combat. Here you control two characters at once in like a self-co-op. One of the characters is in the third person, that's the Moth. This is like a hack and slash style game. And at the same time you control a first person character, which is the Alchemist, who uses mixtures to sway the events of the battlefield. Different mixtures will cause different effects, such as there's like a bouncy type of a mixture, which when you throw it at a rock type creature, you can then use the Moth to hit that rock into other enemies. Throughout the course of the adventure, you unlock more mixtures and more combos for the Moth. There is no jump button for the Moth, however there is a pretty nice dash and you can climb up certain surfaces using that dash button. She can also use her wings to glide. The scope and the scale of the levels are really huge. There's some really nice vistas in the game, and exploration is encouraged. There are little seeds throughout the level that you can collect, and there's magical symbols that you can draw, like finger painting in VR. For anyone disappointed that this isn't a carbon copy of Moss because they like puzzle solving, I'm happy to report that in the second half of the game, the puzzles do get a bit more complex, and there's also lots of action as well. So it's a nice mixture of two. Unfortunately, the game does not feature eye tracking. Eye tracking, if they would have utilized eye tracking, it would have made a really big difference in this game as you are throwing the mixtures onto the battlefield. And sometimes, wherever you're throwing it, it doesn't go exactly where you want it to go. There is an aim assist, but that only works half of the time. Eye tracking being utilized in this game would have made a huge difference. The game also doesn't feature any dynamic foveated rendering. The triggers aren't used, so there's no adaptive triggers either. And there's no headset rumble, or at least none that I could sense. So I think a lot of the features of the PSVR2 aren't present here, so this is a straight Quest port. The graphics, however, are very smooth and they're very sharp. I don't think it's running natively at 90 Hz. I don't think it's 120 frames a second either. However, what you're seeing here in the headset is crystal clear. Also, I'd like to mention that smooth turning doesn't really work. You can switch to smooth turning and adjust parameters of how fast you want it to turn, but the game just randomly switches it off. I think it's because this is a pre-release build. I'm assuming that that's going to be fixed later, but I think it's worth mentioning right now. Now that I've got all that technicality out the way, I'd like to talk about the actual game itself. The graphics and art style are very nice. We have a minimalist approach. It's a little bit like the Light Brigade, but with a bit more colour. Also, the character models are very highly detailed, particularly the Moth. The wings of the Moth can also be customized later on in the game. And I think the world has got this very nice metallic look to it, like all of the bushes and the trees look like they're made of metal foil. It's a really nice effect. The sense of scale in the game world as well. You'll be climbing mountains, you'll be climbing up the inside of colossal statues, you'll see these vistas and these waterfalls, and it's just very nice to look at. The Moth is very small, you're very big, and then the mountains are even bigger on top of you. Some areas of the map will be inaccessible to begin with, but you'll get a new ability later on and you can come back and get all the collectibles. And I'm happy to report that there is a platinum trophy in this game as well. Some games miss it out and it always infuriates me. This one has a platinum though. There's a nice variety to enemy types that you can dispatch in a number of different ways at your choosing, and the boss fights are usually colossal, and there's usually a trick to fighting the bosses, so it's not just a standard hack and slash. There are some light RPG elements, such as upgrading your characters, upgrading your magic, customizing the way the Moth looks, and there's conversations that you can choose different answers to different questions to, which is always nice. The sound design is excellent throughout, nice music, nice sound effects. I did notice some sound popping here and there, but nothing major. The campaign here is about 8 hours plus, and there is some replay value, so you'll get a lot of bang for your buck out of this one, I think. So just to summarise, I really enjoyed my time here with Mixture. I think it's an excellent game. It's very well put together. I think some of the problems that it has can just be patched in later. I think if you're a fan of Moss or Astrobot, I think there's a lot here for you to enjoy. You might want to consider this one. If you've enjoyed my review today, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps me out quite a lot. Also, if you have any questions about Mixture on the PSVR2, feel free to comment your question and I'll try my best to answer them. I'm signing off now, but I'm going to let this video run out with some nice exclusive gameplay footage. Please enjoy. Farewell.